What is up, sweet Skype strangers? Now I can't see
Hello.
my can't see myself because I moved your one. I have like a bunch of different things on my screen. There I am. I got my big dorky headphones on that I used to use when I played Fortnite back in the day.
Ooh, that is dorky. I have
But
earbuds in. Can
uh,
barely see
do
them.
do you? I love your background.
Thank you. I'm in a
Um,
cave. I feel
yeah.
like it's super appropriate.
Did you go up to Maribel? Did you go to Maribel and just get in
Yeah,
the
I,
caves?
I crawled in there.
Like that video I sent you?
Yep.
Do you want to do your spiel on
Oh
if you
yeah,
don't
if you
want to
don't want
listen?
to, I mean, this is gonna be very short. This time we don't have a taste test, but we are gonna probably
Yeah.
talk a little before we get to the topic. And if you don't want to listen to it, check the show notes. You can
Yeah.
skip ahead.
Yeah. So why we're doing this is because my tire on my car went flat last Thursday, and I panicked, and Corey came over, and we got it filled enough that I took it to tire place in town, and they didn't get to it until yesterday.
That's crazy,
So I
actually.
didn't have a car for like a week, and I did get it back, but I'm also leery about driving it down by you.
Sure.
And tomorrow, Aaron's kid's birthday party, and
Oh yeah, you said that.
because I didn't think I was going to have a car, his sister is picking me up on her way there. So, and that would have screwed with our
Yeah.
podcast. I don't like doing Skype podcasts, but it's better than nothing. At some point, like if you move, get a new place, we might have to go to Skype, and
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna have to figure out Skype
Yeah, if the
because
drive becomes too long for you.
yeah,
It's super
but
easy. You literally just hit record.
yeah, but for now,
It's
so
nothing to figure out.
for this episode, we are doing Skype. So yeah, we have no taste test. I want to give shout outs to our two newest strangers, and those are Jennifer Kessner Deaver, I think it's pronounced, and Justin Lambert. And I also really want to give a shout out to an awesome ex student of mine named Lily. And Lily works at the grocery store I worked at when I was a high schooler, like for 13 years. I love that store. And Lily works there now, and she religiously listens. Like every time I go in on weekends to say hi to her, and she always tells me about the latest episode. So she listens to it religiously. She's awesome. So thank you so much, Lily, for listening. And the only housekeeping I have is that this is our last regular episode.
hmm
The next one will be the season finale with Corey,
hmm
and there will be the Christmas episode. But
Yeah.
for the Christmas episode this year, we just want to answer questions. And neither Krista or I want to see the questions you guys are going to send in. So we made the email address. Corey has access to it. So I'll post it in the group probably tomorrow or Sunday. But the address is pretty basic. It is the strange sessions questions at gmail.com. And I'll post it in the group. And for the Christmas episode, we really want questions from you guys. And I know that we've done a ton of them, but if you want to ask some of the same questions, go right ahead because stuff might have changed or don't worry if we've already answered the question. And like I said, Krista and I are going to have no knowledge of what you're asking us, so it should be interesting. So it'll be a fun Christmas episode.
Yeah.
So we're going to need that in 2 weeks for
hmm
the because that's when we're going to record the Christmas episode as well. And that's all I really have for housekeeping.
Yeah, I have nothing.
No, it's so weird not being there with you, and it's
hmm
weird that it's daytime when we're doing this and not
hmm
6 o'clock in the morning, you know. But do we have anything else? Weather's
I
been
don't think so.
cold. It's been great.
hmm
Um,
There's
I
snow in the
am,
forecast next week.
yeah, that's crazy. I am really, really tired today, and I have no idea why because I slept okay last night, but I am just exhausted, and I feel like I have a little bit of a cold or something, so I will do my best to talk. But jumping right into the main topic, we started the season when you guys voted in the poll. We started with I originally had it tunnels and caves, but there was too much for both. So I split the first episode of this season as tunnels and the last regular episode is caves. So it makes a nice bookend. I would
Yeah.
much rather be in a tunnel than a cave. I can handle a tunnel.
Yeah. Me too.
Caves, not so much.
No.
But we're going to talk about a couple things. There's a chance we might not get to some of this stuff because Krista has things she needs to do. And If we don't, we'll save it for a leftovers episode. Maybe we'll Skype in between the Christmas episode and the start of next season, maybe, just to get together. We did that last year after Christmas. We just had like a quick little episode where we said hi. So if we don't get to all this stuff, we don't get to it, but we will before the start of the next season. So we're talking about caves. Krista and I both are not spelunkers by any stretch of the imagination. I'm deathly afraid of closed, like super tight and closed areas. And I've been to Maribel Caves, and like I said, the one big cave is really cool because that's like a Gilligan's Island cave, like kind of like the one behind you that you can walk into. But then the ones that I sent you that video where the guy is on his stomach, like shimmying through.
These people are insane.
Yeah, that's a big nope.
That's a nightmare. It's literally a nightmare.
That is. So I don't see myself going in a cave anytime soon, but we're going to start with 5 fun facts about caves, and this comes from the website startcaving.com, which I did not sign up for. Startcaving.com and enterthecaves.com. Those are 2 websites where I got these facts. Fact number 1, people don't really agree on what a cave is, and this comes from the website. It's true, we don't really agree on what a cave is. Sure, it's a hole in the ground, but how big? Do you need to be able to walk around in it? Does it have to have an entrance? It gets complicated quickly. So why not just come up with a universal definition? Well, what makes sense to call a cave in one area doesn't make sense to be called a cave in another. It really depends on the environment. Each region deals with different conditions. Each has its own specific type of rocks, formation, and history. Some regions have very long, narrow passages. Yuck. Others have large chambers, and some only have potholes. That's the reason why their requirements to be called a cave differ per state and per country. So they all use requirements that make sense in their own landscape, which makes sense. And that's also the reason the numbers greatly vary. Some states have so many caves that they don't bother with anything shorter than 30 feet. Tennessee is one of those that if it's less than 30 feet, they don't even consider it a cave. And this is interesting. I guess I never thought of this. Number 2, most of the world's caves are undiscovered. We know plenty of caves at the moment, and as caving gets more popular, a lot of discoveries are made and mappings are done. But most of the world's caves are still undiscovered by a large margin. Experts guess that we've only discovered about 1% of all the caves on Earth, which is crazy.
That creeps me out, actually.
Yeah, it does. The total number of caves we don't know yet will probably be about 100 times more than the caves that we do know of. So why is that? It's because most caves are actually just closed off entirely. We can't enter them, and you can't really spot them from above ground. 3 different classifications of caves are an open entrance cave, which has an obvious and visible entrance, and most of those are probably known. There's closed entrance caves that have an entrance that is closed off by rocks or earth due to a collapse. And then there's entrance-less caves that have no entrance whatsoever and are a closed system. And that's frightening to me, to be stuck in a cave. Like,
how would you get in there, though?
I don't know, just to teleport into a cave that has like no way out.
I feel like we don't need to worry about that.
No, but so there's probably a ton of the closed system ones in Maribel, because there's so many caves in Maribel. Fun fact number 3, the Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia area has 14,000 known caves, which is just crazy to me. Fun fact number 4, the maximum depth of a cave system is around 9,800 feet. At this depth, the pressure of the overlying rocks plays an important role and often collapses the cave. But the deepest limit which scientists have explored is approximately 7,257 feet down, which is a long way. Fun fact number 5, if you discover a cave, you get to name it. It's a tradition that the person that discovers the cave gets to name it. Not every country or state allows this, but most U.S. states do allow you to name it. Combine that with the fact that most caves are undiscovered. Statistically, it's your best shot at immortality. If
you discovered a cave, what would you name it, Kurt?
I don't want to. Kurt's Cave is too boring. The strange Sessions.
Yeah, but alliteration.
True, that's true.
Mine would be called Nope.
Nope in big capital letters.
Nope.
Nope. So some stats. The deepest cave is the Veryovkina cave in the Soviet Union at 7,257 feet. This next one blows my mind. The biggest cave is the Sun Dung cave in Vietnam. Mental Floss's article, Eight of the World's Most Spectacular Caves, says, quote, discovered by timber harvester Ho Khan in the early 1990s, but unexplored until 2009, the Sun Dung Cave in the remote jungles of Vietnam holds the title of the largest cave in the world by volume. It's a sprawling network of tunnels and caverns, the largest cavern of which could contain an entire New York City block complete with 40-story buildings, according to a 2015
Whoa.
National Geographic expedition.
That's hard to wrap your head around, actually.
It is. It's so crazy. And the longest, any idea what the longest cave system is in the world?
No.
It's the first one.
No, what's funny though is because I feel like a lot of these cave systems aren't fully explored.
No, this one also isn't, but it's the longest cave system. It's in the United States.
I have no idea. 10 miles.
I don't what's the cave system in the United States? Any ideas? The big one. Mammoth Caves.
Oh, Mammoth Caves. Okay,
Mammoth
sure.
Caves in Kentucky. The combined length of just the documented passageways exceeds 426 miles. So
I just said 10 miles.
That is a lot.
A little off.
That is a lot of caves.
That's crazy. Imagine getting lost. Imagine being down there and your flashlight dies.
No,
you're never seen
because
again.
I've read about that in some of these. Like, we're only going to talk about really one haunted cave, and that's the Mammoth Caves we're going to talk about. But there's stories of people that are in there, and your light goes out, and you're feeling the walls to try to find.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Have we ever talked about the catacombs?
No. People have suggested that, I think.
Yeah.
So at some point we should talk about that. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about first is Mammoth Cave's weirdness. Okay. I would like to I've seen pictures of it where there's like a stairway going in. I would like to go into Mammoth Caves just a little bit, but not far. Like, I feel like I'd be okay going in a cave where I can still see the sunlight at the entrance, and it's big enough that I can walk in. I'm cool with that, but I feel like once I can't see light.
Yeah. Or like a guided tour. We did the Cave of the Mounds last year, and there's some places where you have to kind of squeeze through, but you're not like crawling. It's just like there's some rocks that are kind of, well, not that close, but they're close enough for you to squeeze through.
Like we
it's
said,
not great.
When you see Josh Gates do that on Expedition Unknown, where he's like, his back is touching the wall and his stomach. Yes. Doing that.
But no, that wasn't, there was nothing nerve wracking about that. And we were down under there. I mean, it's all lit, there's a guide.
Yeah. Like some of the Mammoth Caves, I would like to check out some of the Mammoth Caves, just not a lot of it. But that is what we're going to talk about first is Mammoth Cave's weirdness. So from a cultofweird.com article from August 7th, 2013 called, quote, Ghost in Mammoth Cave, the article says, Wisconsin paranormal researcher J. Nathan Couch recently took a legend trip to Kentucky. Legend tripping is the act of visiting an allegedly haunted location to try and experience the legend for yourself. The Mammoth Cave system is without a doubt the world's greatest subterranean wonder. Located in an area that's roughly only a few miles in diameter, the cave twists and turns and stretches to a length of some 400 miles and a depth of 30 stories, and that's only the explored tunnels. It's suspected that hundreds of miles of caves remain to be discovered. Every weekend, more exploration occurs and new mileage is recorded. The world's longest cave system literally becomes larger every single weekend. You and I will not be joining them to do that. The first evidence of human beings exploring the black halls of Mammoth Cave dates back 4,000 years ago when prehistoric Native Americans first dared to venture under the earth. There, with primitive stone tools and no light beyond what their small torches could cast, they mined the cave walls for its materials. At some point, these people began burying their dead inside the cave, as at least 4 bodies have been excavated since the 1800s. The dry, mineral-rich environment of the cave turned each one of these into perfectly preserved mummies, many of which were on display for certain amounts of time during the cave's history of being a privately owned tourist attraction. The natives continued to delve into the darkness for 2,000 years until their presence abruptly stops. No one has yet concluded why they abandoned the caves after 2 millennia. In the late 1700s, a member of the Huchen family found the cave while bear hunting. During the War of 1812, the cave was used as a saltpeter mine to aid in the production of gunpowder. After the war ended, the cave became one of the nation's first tourist attractions once the mummies were discovered. This was a period in history when the mummies were believed to be members of a lost race of people instead of Native American ancestors, which added to the mystery of the place. Wealthy citizens from all over the country would come to tour the caves. In 1839, the cave was even witness to good old-fashioned 19th century quackery. A medical doctor from Louisville named Dr. John Crowan established a small village for tuberculosis patients inside the cave. At this point in history, no one had the slightest idea how to treat this fatal respiratory illness. The doctor believed that the pure air of the cave would help the lungs battle infection. Those who didn't leave the cave after a few weeks of the stale, gloomy darkness of the cave just died. Some of those who did die were discovered by tourists as the tour routed right through the tuberculosis village. Much of this TB hospital still stands today and can be seen on certain present-day cave tours. So that's crazy. And now this is, this guy. This is believed to be one of the ghosts that haunt the Mammoth Caves. It's the ghost of Floyd Collins. During the early 1920s, most of the caves were privately owned and more people were flocking to the area for vacations. So many entrances to the cave system had either been discovered or made that dozens of caves were now competing for tourist dollars. A man named Floyd Collins owned a section called the Crystal Cave, but he was losing out in what has now become known as the Kentucky Cave Wars, which could have been a side session, hearing all about the Kentucky Cave Wars. Yeah. His cave was hard to get into, it lacked lodging, and he was losing money. So Collins began excavating an entrance to a cave called the Sand Cave, which he hoped would steal visitors from the then privately owned Mammoth Cave. So this poor dude, this comes from Wikipedia. This is pretty grim. On January 30th, 1925, after several hours of work inside the caves, his gas lamp began to dim. He attempted to leave the passage quickly before losing all light to the chamber, so he headed out through a small passage on his way out. Collins accidentally knocked over his lamp trying to scurry out through the tight passage, putting out the light, and because he didn't have light, he put his foot on what he thought was a stable wall of the cave, but it wasn't, so the passage shifted, and he was caught by a 26-pound rock that fell from the cave ceiling, pinning his left leg. Additionally, torrents of loose gravel fell and completely buried his body. He was trapped 150 feet from the entrance. Neighbors began to worry the next day because Floyd hadn't returned, and they headed out to find him. Although none of them were brave enough to take on the smaller, tighter passages it took to reach Collins, they were able to get close enough to communicate with him and learn that he was trapped. His younger brother, Homer, was soon phoned to the scene and was the only person able to make it through the small passages to get to Floyd before reporter Skeets Miller, Lieutenant Robert Burden of the Louisville Fire Department, and family friend Johnny Gerald crossed the boundary in the coming days. Homer brought Floyd food and liquids to keep his energy up, and many ideas were thought of by locals and tourists alike as far as techniques that they could use to get Floyd out of the cave. Skeets Miller won a Pulitzer Prize for his interview with the trapped Collins. So that's the last thing I want to be doing when I'm pinned. It's doing an interview.
Right.
On February 2nd, 1925, a plan was devised to hoist Collins from the cave using a harness, rope, and the strength of multiple men. This attempt failed and actually injured Collins more, pulling his torso directly upwards and against the ceiling of rock above him. Rescuers ultimately decided that the best way to get him out was to dig out each rock that surrounded him and leverage the large rock off of his foot. Eventually, an electronic light was run down the passage to provide him lighting and some warmth. It became a huge media sensation, with hamburger and hot dog stands soon popping up and souvenirs being sold. Due to the attention the disaster gained, hundreds of inexperienced cave explorers and tourists stood outside the mouth of the cave he was trapped in. The cold winter air caused the tourists to start campfires that disrupted the natural ice within the cave, causing it to melt and to create large puddles of freezing cold water, one of which Floyd lay in. So,
What the heck? This
I
poor
know.
guy.
On February 4th, the cave passage collapsed in 2 places due to the ice melting. Attempts were made to dig the passages that led to Floyd back out, but rescue leaders determined that the cave was now impassable and too dangerous, which brought the decision to dig a shaft straight down to reach the chamber behind Collins. Collins survived for more than a week while rescue efforts were organized. The cave drew air inward, meaning no engineered equipment could be used to dig into the cave because the fumes would suffocate Collins in the process. A 55-foot shaft would have to be dug down with nothing but pickaxes and shovels.
I wonder if he
A
had
series
water.
of
Like, was he
Yeah, because
drinking the water in the cave?
probably
'Cause you
drinking
can't
the
make it
water
more
that he
than
was
3 days.
no, drinking the water he was laying in, probably,
Oh,
you
God.
know. A series of pulley systems were used to remove rocks from the hole, but the pace of work slowed as they dug nearer to Collins. A radio amplifier had been rigged to the copper wire that connected Collins' light bulb. A scientist believed the amplifier could detect vibrations whenever Collins moved. The amplifier crackled 20 times every minute, a hopeful sign that Collins might still be breathing. On February 11th, 1925, tests showed that Collins' light bulb had gone out, meaning there was no way to tell if he was still alive. The 55-foot shaft and subsequent lateral tunnel intersected the cave just above Collins, but when he was finally reached on Monday, February 16th, by miner Ed Brenner, he was dead. Collins' story doesn't end there. Floyd was eventually removed from the cave and interred in a family cemetery. Floyd's father sold the cave and the property to a local dentist named Thomas, who somehow obtained permission to exhume Floyd's body and put it on display in a glass slid coffin in the entrance to Sand Cave, where hundreds of tourists could gawk at his decaying corpse. It gets weirder. Eventually, Floyd's body was stolen, presumably by rival cave owners who were upset at the amount of tourists the body was attracting. After a few days, his decomposed body was discovered laying in a field, minus one leg, which was never recovered, and he was put back in his coffin at Sand Cave, now without the viewing lid, although tourists still opened it and peeked inside at his body.
No wonder this guy's haunting the place.
I would haunt the cave too, because that
Oh my
sucks.
gosh.
The National Park System bought the Sand Cave in 1961 and closed the cave to tourists, but surprisingly, Floyd did not get a proper burial until 1989. So
Wow.
that's
That
crazy.
is wild.
Yeah, not surprisingly, a plethora of ghostly activity is said to happen here. In areas associated with Floyd Collins' grim demise, his voice has been heard calling for help through the tunnels, and objects have been thrown at people in the caves. Throughout other areas of the cave system, apparitions have been seen, usually of African Americans. The cave's earliest tour guides and explorers were all male African American slaves, and many even held church service with their families inside certain chambers. So, from a WBKO.com article called, quote, Hometown Hauntings, Mammoth Caves, Natural and Supernatural Wonders, the article says, quote, the ghost of a woman known as Melissa is said to roam around in the caves in an area called Echo River. She allegedly abandoned a man in the cave without a lamp for not reciprocating her affection towards him. Yeah, so he was never seen again. The stories say that her ghost searches the caves for him, with screams echoing from deep within the earth. The website thediscover.com says, quote, with 150 recorded paranormal events, many by rangers themselves, the most frequent ghost sighting in the caves is believed to be Stephen Bishop, a slave of Dr. Crohn's, who was a tour guide, ranger, and skilled spelunker. It's believed that Bishop liked to tag along on ranger tours, and when the lights go out for 1 minute during the ghost tour, strange incidents often occur, such as people being shoved or grabbed when no one is nearby them. It is said that he sometimes joins a tour group, saying nothing, just walking with the group, and then disappearing during the tour. And he is sometimes seen wandering the caves with a woman and 2 children. From a BG Daily News.com website article called, quote, The Mysteries of Mammoth Cave, it says, Charles Hanyon, a park guide for decades, has always had an interest in the unusual aspects of the Mammoth Caves. In 1996, he co-authored a book called Scary Stories of Mammoth Cave. Hanyon himself had an unusual experience while leading a tour in a cave chamber called the Big Chief with another guide. The chamber features a large rock upon which it was common for guides to throw a torch to illuminate the room during tours. On one such occasion, a visitor asked Hanyon who was standing up on the rock. Hanyon assumed that it was his fellow tour guide, only to see that person standing at the back of the cave. On another tour, Hanyon saw the apparition himself. He says, quote, "I could make out a figure. It was not just a shadow." The figure appeared to be wearing a distinct hat. It was only much later that he discovered that old tour guides commonly wore a slouched hat during tours, such as the apparition was wearing. So stories of apparitions appearing to be Civil War soldiers, slaves, Native Americans, and even a Bigfoot sighting have happened in the Mammoth Caves. So there's a lot going on there. From a WBKO July 30th, 2019 article called, quote, "Shots Fired at Mammoth Cave Over an Alleged Bigfoot Sighting," the article says, "A weekend camping trip in backcountry at Mammoth Cave National Park quickly took a dramatic turn for one couple. They were woken in the middle of the night to strange noises and were met with an individual saying that something had destroyed their campsite. Brad Ginn, one of the campers, said the individual also said, quote, 'It was Bigfoot country,' which seemed a little weird that he would say that. The individual then informed them that he was searching for whatever had destroyed his campsite and warned them to be careful. Madeline Durand, a camper, said, quote, 'He said, I hope you have weapons,' and then he flashed his gun at us and was like, 'I have this, so if anything happens to you, just yell and I'll come.' The couple then decided to head back to their tent, but moments later they heard gunshots. They dialed 911 and hiked 5 miles back to their car in the parking lot to meet up with the park rangers. Mammoth Cave's public information officer, Molly Schroer, stated, quote, 'Mammoth Cave National Park law enforcement rangers responded to a reporting of an individual with a firearm in one of our backcountry campsites in the early morning hours of Sunday, July 28th. The rangers made contact with all the parties involved, and it is an ongoing investigation at this time.' So we don't know if the guy really saw Bigfoot or if he was just goofy and trigger happy. But one Bigfoot hunter in 2014 told a Daily News reporter that he and a group of Girl Scouts had recently seen and heard a large Bigfoot-like creature jump onto a raised walkway in the caves, after which the group quickly retreated. So there's plenty of Bigfoot sightings around the Mammoth Caves, apparently. And somebody on Reddit writes, quote, 'I have loved Mammoth Cave since I was a kid, and I try to visit every few years. I had a curious experience on my last visit about a year ago. I was on a tour with my sister, and we were standing near the giant's coffin.' That must be an area of the cave, I think. 'The guide announced that he was going to turn off the lights for a moment. I looked around as people chatted nervously, and I made eye contact with an older gentleman to my right. He nodded politely at me, and I smiled and nodded back. The lights went off, and the guide told a story of one of the people who survived being lost in the cave. He turned the light back on, and now the gentleman was gone. Something felt odd, so I began looking for him in the crowd, and he was nowhere to be found. I made my way through the pack, but could not find him anywhere. We were a group of about 20 walking together for another 2 hours, and that man was not with us.' So there you go. There is some Mammoth Cave stuff. That story of Floyd Collins, holy cow. Poor guy.
Is this whole episode just going to give me anxiety, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's it for stuff like that.
Okay.
But this next section, I stumbled across this years ago, and I was always like really interested in this because this is not really a well-known thing. And it's the story of the Moonshaft Cave. And back when I first heard about this, I couldn't find almost anything about it online, and now there's much more about it, so it's gotten a little more well known. But at the time, there was like nothing about it. So this comes from the thinkaboutit.com site from a November 15th, 2012 article called, quote, "The Mysterious Moonshaft." So this is directly from this article. The following true adventure, related by a captain in the Slovak uprising of World War II, happened during October of 1944. Dr. Antonin T. Horak, now a linguist, has attempted for years to persuade spelunkers to investigate what he considers one of the underworld's strangest mysteries. This story is taken from a diary written on the scene, and it is reprinted from the March 1965 issue of National Speleological Society News. It says, quote, this comes from the diary. Quote, Saturday afternoon, the remnants of our battalion were retreating through the snow of the North Slope. My company was the rear guard. At dawn Sunday, guns opened up at us from close range. Having held our position for 12 hours, I ordered a gradual breakup of the skirmish and a slip-off. But in our left trench, someone became careless and that drew 2 direct hits, shells, 2 wounded. Arriving there, I bumped into the enemy. I caught a bayonet and a bullet with my left palm and a blow on the head, which knocked me out. Without my fur cap on, my skull might have been fractured. I came to when someone was pulling me from the trench, a tall peasant. He packed snow on my hand and head and grinned at me. Then this rough and ready Samaritan grabbed Jurek, stripped off his pants, yanked a long sliver of steel from his thigh, and planted him bare-bottomed and gasping into a heap of snow. Martin, with a slash across his and into his belly, was tenderly bandaged. Building a stretcher, this peasant introduced himself as Slavic, a sheepman, owner of the pastures that we were on. With Slavic hauling and guiding, it took us 4 hours to reach this cranny where he said that we would be hidden. Slavic moved rocks in the cranny and opened a low cleft, the entrance to a roomy grotto. Placing Martin in a niche, we were astonished to see Slavic become ceremonious. He crossed himself, crossed each of us, crossed the grotto, and with a deep bow, he crossed its back wall where a hole came to my attention. About to leave us, Slavic begged me not to go further into his cave. He told me that only once with his father and grandfather had he been in this cave. He said that it was a huge maze full of pits that they never wanted to fathom. It said it had pockets of poisonous air and was, quote, certainly haunted. I was in the grotto with my 2 men at about midnight, exhausted, head very painful, and I soothed it with snow. Martin was unconscious and Jurek was feverish. Slavic may not be able to get through to us with food for days to come, so I decided maybe I should try hunting the landscape while I have 2 immobilized men on my hands. But here we have this cave, which Slavic only knows partially. It may have more than just this known entrance, and it may contain hibernating animals. These possibilities I mulled over while Jurek implored me not to go poaching into Slavic's cave and promised to keep mum. And I was not only starving, but equally eager to find out what makes the self-assured Slavic scared enough to involve the deities. I started my cave tour with rifle, lantern, torches, and a pick. After a not too devious nor dangerous walk and some squeezing, always taking the easiest and marking side passages, I came, after about 1.5 hours, into a long level passage and at its end a barrel-sized hole. Crawling through and still kneeling, I froze in amazement. There stood something like a large black silo framed in white. Regaining breath, I thought that this is a bizarre natural wall of curtain of black salt or ice, but I became perplexed and then awestruck when I saw that it was a glass smooth flank of seemingly man-made structure which reaches into the rock on all sides. Beautifully cylindrically curved, it indicates a huge body with a diameter of around 80 feet or so. Where this structure and the rocks meet, large stalagmites and stalactites form that glittering white frame. The wall is uniformly blue-blackish. Its material seems to combine properties of steel, flint, rubber, since the pick made no marks and bounced off vigorously. The thought of a tower-sized artifact embedded in the middle of an obscure mountain is bewildering. So he's in this cave, and then there's like this, he goes in, and there's this weird cylinder that looks like it's stuck in the middle of this
and
mountain.
Man-made.
So then he sees that this artifact has a skinny crack in it. He tries a few times to shimmy in through the crack, but has problems getting through it. He finally ends up getting inside. There were no loose stones about the wall, so I hacked stalagmites and bowled the pieces down through the crack. They rolled on, causing enormous echoes, and knocked to a standstill, indicating that there was a solid floor and room to turn around. I launched the unlit torches in after the rocks, undressed, keeping my shirt only, and went after the stones and torches. Already acquainted with the meanest fangs in the crack, I came through with only a few cuts, dropped a little, rolled down an incline, and was stopped by a wall which felt familiar, satiny smooth, like the front wall. My lamp was still burning next to me, but there were confusing sounds. Lighting some torches, I saw that I was in a spacious, curved, black shaft formed by cliff-like walls, which intersect and form a crescent-shaped, nearly vertical tunnel, rather sharp. I cannot describe the somberness and the endless whisperings, rustlings, and roaring sounds, abnormal echoes from my breathing and my movements. The floor over which I rolled in was like a solid lime pavement. All the lights together did not reach the ceiling or where these walls ended or where the walls met. The horizontal distance between the apexes of the concave backside of the front wall and the convex back wall is about 25 feet. Along the curve of the back wall is about 80 feet. Basically, from what I'm gathering and from maps, he's in this like chamber that's shaped like a crescent moon, but it's made out of this weird material
Hmm.
that he can't figure out what it is. Extending the carbide lamp upon a double pole with 4 torches burning, still the upper ends of the cliffs remained in the dark. I fired 2 bullets up parallel to the walls. The reports caused roars as from an express train, but no impact was visible.
Hmm.
Then I fired a bullet on each wall, aiming some 15 meters upward from me. Got large blue-green sparks and such a sound that I had to hold my ears between my knees, and flames danced wildly. I probed the pavement and started digging where the lime was thin in the horns of the crescent. At right is dry loam. At left I came at about half a meter upon a pocket of enamel from the teeth of some large animal. I took 1 canine and 1 molar, replaced the rest. Digging nearby, the back wall has, at about 1.5 meters below the pavement, a vertical, finely fluted, undulating pattern that suggested that it was an indication of machinery. It seemed warmer than the smooth surface. The next day, I went back to the Moonshaft to continue experimenting. On my longest assembly of poles and carbide lamp, it still did not light the upper ends of these cliffs. I fired above the lighted areas, the bullets striking huge sparks and making deafening echoes. Then horizontally at the back wall with similar effects. Sparks, roaring, no splinters, but a half-finger long welt which gave off a strange pungent smell. After that, I continued in my digging in the left moon horn and saw that the wavy patterns extended downward, but in the right horn, I didn't find that pattern. I left the moonshaft to probe the front wall and its surroundings. I wanted to obtain a sample of the peculiar material of the walls, but even firing 2 bullets into the crack, upon the protrusions and hitting them, I received only ricochets, a blast of thunder, welts, and the same strange pungent smell. The next day, at 10 o'clock a.m., I was in the cave probing passages for a way around behind the moonshaft. I looked for ice and poisonous air about which Slavic had spoken and found none, though there might be some. Then I slipped into the moonshaft to sketch, dig, and ponder, and returned to the camp at around 4 o'clock p.m. Martin had died. The next morning I cut my name, etc., on a leather strip, and together with the golden back of my watch, rolled and inserted both engravings into a glass bottle, plugged it with a pebble and a ball of clay mixed with charcoal, and I deposited this in the moonshaft on top of the ashes of my torches. It may still be there, possibly until the structure is completely hidden behind its curtain of stalactites and stalagmites. Slavic has no son to tell about his cave mystery. His womenfolk don't know about it, and daughters usually marry the same villagers in the village. In a few decades, nobody will know, and if I do not come back and have the structures explored, they will vanish. I sat there by my fire speculating. What is this structure with walls 2 meters thick and a shape that I cannot imagine of any purpose known nowadays? How far does it reach into the rocks? Is there more behind the moonshaft? What incident or who put this into this mountain? Is it a fossilized man-made object? Is there truth in legends like Plato's about long-lost civilizations with magic technologies which our rationale cannot grasp nor believe? I am a sober, academically trained person, but must admit that there, between those black, mathematically curved cliffs, I do feel as if I'm in the grip of an exceedingly strange and grim power. I can understand that simple but intelligent and practical men like Slavic and his forebears sense here witchery, conceal it, and also fear that if the existence of this moonshaft is ever made known, it would attract armies of tourists and all the commotion, tunneling, and blasting, hotels, and commercialization, which would probably ruin their nature-bound trade and their honest life. On my way back to camp, I burrowed and hid the crawl holes which lead towards the wall. This cave may have entrances which Slavic does not know, and some chance discoverer might start blasting for treasure before some scientific team could get there. In the last days of World War II, on my way towards Bohemia, I revisited the place. I visited Martin's grave and looked at the cave entrance. I had taken the animal teeth I had collected to the curator of paleontology at Yerzad, no idea where that is, and he classified the teeth as being those of an adult cave bear. Thereupon I speculated the crack is too small and the lump of limestone and stalagmites in front of the crack would not let anything big through. So this bear must have somehow fallen into the moonshaft, which at one time may have had a connection to the surface. On my last visit to the place, I examined the mountainside above the cave and found no sinkholes or pits. The assumed connections into the moonshaft were not up there, but on these steep slopes in the Tatra Mountains, rock slides could have obliterated or filled in any such connections. So that's from his diary.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, so from the Wikipedia article about the Moonshaft Cave, it says, quote, the diary mentions the villages Yazdar, Lubanka, and Plano that do not exist in Slovakia, but the names are reminiscent of actual nearby villages. The main problem preventing any serious research was the political situation in former Czechoslovakia that was out of limits for any explorers from the United States, who were the only ones to discuss the subject directly with Antonin Horak. Ted Phillips and Dr. J. Allen Hynek, we always talk about Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book, might have stolen the original Bet Sphere. I always got to throw that in there. They visited Horak in his home in Pueblo, Colorado in 1970. Horak showed them photos he took during his last trip to the site and provided them with some additional information about the location of the cave. Ted Phillips started, quote, Project Tatra, which was expected to result in an expedition to Czechoslovakia, but the plans were halted due to safety concerns. In 1975, 1 year before his death, Horak met researcher Andrei Estival and allegedly gave him important materials, but this has never been confirmed. The first field research was carried out by Czech explorers Ivan Mackerel and Michael Brumlik in 1980. In 1982, an official research was performed by the local Museum of Slovak Karst. Both groups failed to find any reliable information about the herder Slavic and his daughters. The details of the military operations that Horak described in his diary also seem strangely inaccurate. The first snow in Tatras in 1944 fell in November, although in the diary Horak mentions avalanches and snowdrifts already in October. Mackerel believed that all these inaccuracies were included on purpose to mislead people looking for the cave. Before his death, Ivan Mackerel passed his materials on to other researchers. In 1994, another Czechoslovakian geologist named Walter Pavlis visited several unexplored caves in the Tatra Mountains. In one of them, he found the letters HA, the number 23, and 6 crossed lines carved into the stone, and which would have made sense because the HA would have been Horak Antonin, the number 23 was October 23rd, and the 6 crossed lines would have been the 6 days in the cave. But this cave had no opening in the rear wall. In 1999, Ted Phillips finally visited Slovakia and explored some of the caves Horak told him about in 1970. Phillips later admitted that he was not able to reach the moonshaft due to a partial collapse of the cave. In his presentation during a MUFON conference in 2015, Phillips showed images of various places in the Tatry and the High Tatras claiming to be taken from around the cave's entrance. Two Slovak authors published their own discoveries in Poland in 2006 and later in the United States in the book The Moon Cave Mystery in 2020. They believe the Moonshaft to be a section of an underground network of tunnels related to the mysterious glass tunnels in Poland. Czech author Martin LaVey performed his own research and discovered that fights similar to those described in Horac's diary had occurred in the Low Tatra Mountains close to the villages Telegart and Vernar. Together with author, Jaroslav Maras and researcher Eric Wojtek, they found an extraordinary rock formation that they called the Rock Eye near the mountain Kralova Hola. However, due to the national park rules, they were not allowed to go anywhere near the object. LaVey believed the Moonshaft to be something called a slick and slide, two enormous blocks of sandstone moving in opposite directions, which resulted in smoothing and darkening of their surfaces. Natural geological processes caused the gap between the two blocks to grow bigger, which created the unusual cavity. Also in 2019, explorer Eric Batista visited a cave in the area where he found a fireplace, letters written on one of its walls, and a pile of stones that looked like a grave. The cave had an opening in the rear wall, but it seemed to be too unstable to be explored safely, and part of that cave collapsed later that year. On the Wealthy Adventures University, Mike Collins writes, quote, "While investigating the story, I made contact with an archaeological geologist based in the U.S. After reviewing information which I had sent to him, he emailed me with an astounding statement. He believed that the structure was between 300 and 310 million years old. This story was indeed becoming stranger by the hour. I've also discovered some otherwise unknown facts. For instance, it's a matter of record that Heinrich Himmler had sent several scientific expeditions into the Tatras looking for a legendary moonshaft, and that in the middle of the late 1970s, after Antonian's death, members of his family had been approached by the KGB who wanted to obtain his diary. And some people believe that what he had found was an entrance to something called Agartha, which is a legendary kingdom that is said to be located on the inner surface of the earth. But that's a story for another episode. But that is the Moonshaft. That's a rabbit hole. That's a Moonshaft cave. And I always thought that was like a fascinating story. Like we haven't done an episode about it yet, but I want like next season, what are they called? It's out of place artifacts. Like when people in a cave find something that looks like an old watch that should not have existed.
Oh.
You know, like people find stuff like this in caves all the time. That's kind of what this sounds like. Like it sounded like I'm fascinated by the idea that whatever this was he was in, it was like it was machined, like it was something made from a machine, and that it ended up somehow inside this mountain. And, you know, like Heinrich Himmler looking for it and the KGB wanting the diary, you know, maybe there's something to this. But I've always been fascinated by the story of the Moonshaft cave. So there you go. There's that story. This other one, this is going to be probably a short episode because I'm almost done already. This next one,
an hour. It's not too bad.
Well, I can go back up because I deleted something that I was going to talk about that I thought was kind of cool, but wasn't really, it didn't pertain to anything. But I kept coming across this, so I just want to mention this. I keep seeing on like paranormal boards and stuff, people put a map of the missing 411 clusters. And they superimpose it over a map of the cave system of the United States. So from a Snopes February 24th, 2020 article called, quote, "Does a map of the missing people in the U.S. match up with its cave systems?" It says, I'm losing my voice. And I totally agree with this. It says, quote, "An image graphic supposedly showing how a map of missing persons in the United States matches up with a map of America's largest cave system is frequently shared on social media. This may seem like an eerie coincidence at first glance, but when we take a closer look at where the maps originated and what they show, the comparison seems overstated. For starters, the top map is not an exhaustive list of every missing person in the United States. If you notice, the map doesn't show any missing people in a large metropolitan area like Detroit, Michigan. That's because it was created with a focus on people who, quote, mysteriously vanish in remote areas, specifically near national parks, which is missing 411. That
Mm-hmm.
was the missing 411 map. And because the national parks in the country are home to nearly 5,000 caves, these maps have are not surprising similarities,
Right.
which makes sense because the missing 411 map shows national parks, and most of our national parks have cave systems. So naturally, they're going to look like, but somebody is making the determination that something in the caves is carrying off these
It's
people
like
or
saying
whatever.
a lot of drownings in the US happen around bodies of water.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then we get to this one that you wanted to talk about, Kenny Veach.
Oh, Kenny Beach. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to
Which
talk about the Nutty Putty incident. I hope you're not going to talk about the Nutty Putty incident.
I don't know if
The
I know
look
what the
on your
nutty.
face says no, you would know. It's horrifying. I was traumatized for weeks after hearing about it. So,
Is it a cave thing?
hmm
Is it the one where the person was like stuck in a cave, like with
upside
their?
down. Hmm
Yes. Okay. I saw pictures of that, and I tried to figure
Yeah,
out how to put that in here, but I
you
didn't
don't
put
need
that in
to.
here.
Okay, good.
No.
I don't
Okay.
want to traumatize anyone. It's a terrible
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah. What I saw was a drawing of a person, and it's a meme now where it says, "Just remember, no matter how bad your day is, this
Yeah.
person died. This person
Yeah.
died like this,
Yeah.
like
After
stuck
spending
upside
many,
down.
many, many hours like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like
No,
wedged
let's talk
stuck."
about Kenny Beach.
Okay. And this one kept showing up. Like people have suggested this, but I don't think there's a mystery to it. I really don't. I guess that's why I never
There's
talked
been some
about it.
recent stuff that has come to light about it too. So I'm seeing new videos on YouTube about it, but
Yeah. Yeah. So this comes from a March 11th, 2025 article on all
what?
that is inter. Oh,
2025?
uh,
Kurt,
I'm
you need to
guessing. I'm
tell us
guessing.
something?
I'm guessing 2024. Um,
Do you have a time
yeah.
machine, Kurt?
Yeah. If I had a time machine, my life would be much better than it is right now. I'd win the lottery or something. So no, it is apparently 20. I don't know. Maybe it's 2015. It could be that too. But it's from all that is interesting. Oh,
I think this is way more recent than that, though.
well,
Kenny
this
Beach?
says, yeah, I don't get this. Oh, it's from that all that is interesting article and a December 2023 article on Strange Outdoors.
Hmm.
So, born in 1967 in Las Vegas, Kenny Veach was an avid hiker known for his YouTube channel Snakebit McGee. Snakebit McGee. Did you ever go to it? I watched some of his videos and stuff.
hmm hmm
Uh, but yeah, Snakebit McGee. On this channel, he documented his days-long solo expeditions through the deserts of Nevada and California, highlighting his love for adrenaline-fueled adventures. During these hikes, he often collected items like animal bones and other curiosities, which he used to decorate his house. Veach had reportedly left his job as a coffee company service technician to try his luck at becoming an inventor. During this time, he created what he claimed to be an improved version of a toilet paper holder and submitted his invention to the show Shark Tank.
Have you seen
Do
it?
you
Have
ever?
you seen like that video
No,
for Shark Tank? It's
no,
kind of funny.
no. Is he on there?
You can see his audition video.
Did he make it on the
I
show?
don't think he did. The audition video is funny though.
I like watching Shark Tank sometimes when nothing else is on. Yeah, I'm definitely losing my voice. I think I do have a cold. He also attempted to sell his house, but with an unusual condition. The buyer had to hire him as a caretaker and agree to let him continue to decorate the house in his own style.
So
Unfortunately, no one
bizarre.
took him up on it. Would
I
you
wonder
do that?
why. No,
Yeah,
because he
why
wanted to
would
stay.
nobody
He wanted to live there. He would be your roommate basically.
why would nobody jump at that?
I don't know.
Just come in and decorate it however you want, I guess.
No, that picture doesn't go there.
Yeah, exactly. But Veach's true passion was solo hiking in the Mojave and Great Basin deserts. He'd camp for days with just the basics, no GPS, compass, or maps. Occasionally, his girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim joined him on his adventures, but much of the time he hiked alone. In June of 2014, Kenny Veach took to the comments section of a YouTube video titled, quote, Son of an Area 51 Technician, to relay a chilling story. Veach posted, quote, This ain't nothing. I'm a long-distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me. He added, quote, I solo hike across mountaintops that most people wouldn't dare go to. I have been in more caves than I can count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun, but this one particular cave was beyond anything I had ever encountered. So the M-shaped cave Kenny referred to in the YouTube comment was in the Sheep Range north of Las Vegas. This range is located north of Las Vegas, Nevada, in both Clark and Lincoln counties in the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. The mountains peak at Hayford Peak, 9,912 feet above sea level between the Las Vegas Range to the east and the Desert Range to the west. The desert wilderness that Kenny was hiking around was full of old mine shafts that the military had used to dispose of chemicals and was a very isolated and demanding trip to get there. It took him around 10 hours of hiking to reach the area of the M Cave and return to his car. It was a place well known for having drug addicts and dealers who had taken up residence in the area, and it was being used as a dumping ground for murder victims' bodies.
Oh,
It's
pleasant.
some lovely place. We should camp there sometime. So fellow YouTubers, being what YouTubers are, many of them were skeptical and commented that he was lying about the experience and the M Cave discovery. Others dared him to go back and get more footage, and he responded with a follow-up hike to the same area in the Sheep Mountains. One poster warned Kenny not to return to it, and that if you do, quote, you won't get out.
So I guess people were suspicious because he didn't have a video of it, and he always had his camera on him.
Yep. Do you know what found footage movie is based on this?
No.
Horror in the High Desert. The first horror.
Those are good.
Because the guy goes to look for something and then disappears.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind
of
that is based on this. And I think they even talk about Kenny Veach in the movie, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like I need to rewatch it now.
Yeah. So in October 2014, armed with a 9mm handgun, Kenny Veach attempted to find the M Cave again. However, in a YouTube video titled, quote, M Cave Hike, posted on October 18th, he admitted that he was unable to find the site again. He wrote on social media, quote, I found a tarantula, a tortoise, and a ram, but I couldn't find the cave. Disappointed YouTubers flooded the comments section criticizing Veach for not proving his original claim, many of them calling him a BSer, and pushed Veach to go on another journey to find the M Cave. On November 10th, Kenny Veach embarked once again on a desert hike to the Sheep Mountains, telling his loved ones that he would be back the next day. When Kenny didn't return from his overnight hike, his girlfriend Sharon Pilgrim reported him missing. In November of 2014, a search for Veach began. In the days following his disappearance, search and rescue teams explored an abandoned vertical mine shaft that had been featured in one of Veach's recent videos. Red Rock Search and Rescue Commander Dave Cummings told News 3 in Las Vegas, quote, we found his cell phone close to the vertical old mine shaft, and we can't find another trail. It doesn't mean that he's down the mine shaft, but we've tracked him as far as we can. We are having our other crews come in from the search areas. The cell phone was located on November 22nd, 2014, and his vehicle was discovered several miles away. The trail had gone cold. Then a user introducing herself as Veach's girlfriend, Sharon Pilgrim, left a comment on his M Cave hike video, posting, quote, I am the girlfriend that Kenny spoke of in the video. There are so many posts. I had no idea until a friend let me know. So many people are wondering what happened and guessing different things. I mean, people were speculating like crazy at the time. There were rumors that he found the cave and that it was
Some kind of
It it
military thing.
it led to Area 51,
Mm-hmm.
and he was killed because he wasn't supposed to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was all sorts of conspiratorial things about that. So then she writes, so many people are wondering what happened and guessing different things. You are heartfelt about the sadness around what has happened with Kenny. He has not been found, and I feel that he probably will not be found for many, many months, if ever. I want to share what I know and feel about what happened so that you might have some closure and understanding in your own lives. Kenny absolutely loved hiking in the desert. It was his very, very favorite thing to do. We hiked and camped together all over the Nevada desert, sometimes 9 hours in a day. We found many abandoned mining towns, usually referred to as ghost towns by Nevada hikers. We explored so many caves and mine shafts. We were always careful how we explored them, but Kenny was a bit more daring than I was. We wore snake guards, sun protected clothing, used walking sticks, brought enough water and food for the hiking hours, and had extra water and food in the car. I want you to know that I do not think Kenny had an accident. I believe he committed suicide. He battled depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared. The search for him was started within a couple days of my call. Over 30 search and rescue team members searched 3 different times on foot. One helicopter flyover was done, and there was no trace of Kenny or any of his camping things. They found his car in the area that I told them it would be in. They did find his cell phone by the mine shaft in his video. The mine shaft was only about a 4-hour hike from his car. It's my feeling that he left it behind so that he could not be tracked by the GPS in his phone. He also did not take his video camera with him on this solo hike. It was left in the home, so he had no intention of filming anything, which, if he was going to look for this, but was he going to film it with his phone? Did he film everything with a video camera, or did he
I
film
think it was
stuff
a
with his
video
phone?
camera.
Yeah, so if he didn't have the camera, if he didn't bring the camera with him, odds are that he really didn't intend to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she continues writing, quote, I share this with you for 2 reasons. First, so that you have more of an understanding who Kenny was and to bring some peace or understanding to this situation. Secondly, if any of you do decide to go out into our desert and look for him or the M cave, be careful and bring enough water and food. Walking sticks are a good idea, and not doing a solo hike is a good idea. Bring a GPS and make sure that you let family or friends know you are heading out for the hike and when you will be returning. A search really can't be a one-day hike. You would be repeating much of the same hike, just getting up the mountain and then be left with not many hours in the day to do the search. You would need 2 or 3 days at a time. And in the summer or even late spring, this can't be done because of the heat of the desert, so you wouldn't be able to carry enough water. So please, please be careful. I had many wonderful experiences with Kenny and will always remember them and have a place of love in my heart for him and the wonderful things we did together. I am healing from my loss, and I look forward to new experiences with desert hiking, camping, and taking beautiful pictures of our desert. Enjoy your adventures of life, and thank you for the kind comments sent my way. So what happened? Some of the theories include, of course, aliens.
Mm.
They think that because it was tied with Area 51 and because of the weird thing about the vibrating body, some people think that he was taken by aliens or killed by aliens. Some people think the whole thing was a hoax, that he never vanished. According to his sister-in-law, Susie Veach, on February 9th, 2024, she said, quote, there's no proof Kenny is dead as no one has ever declared him deceased. Some people theorize it was murder. They thought maybe his girlfriend was involved and killed him. That just seems super unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
Some people believe it was military action. They theorize, quote, has Kenny discovered a hidden secret entrance to Area 51 with strange effects on his body caused by classified military technology? Some theorize that covert black ops in the military took Kenny out as he had discovered something he shouldn't have and he needed to be silenced. But the base is at least 20 miles away from the spot Kenny showcased in his various videos searching for the cave. It would seem unlikely that the M cave would be connected to the Groom Lake site. But that being said, if he did find something they didn't want him to, there are ultrasound or high frequency weapons that can be focused on somebody to make them, like we have to do an episode about what's it called?
The Havana syndrome.
Yes, Havana syndrome, because I think that's basically come out that that's what that is like an ultrasound or high frequency weapon or a microwave weapon. And if he was looking at this cave and they didn't want him to go in there, they hit him with this.
So Josh Gates has a new show coming out called Expedition Files or something like that.
Yeah, what is that?
So they had one episode so far, and there's a multiple topics that he covers, but one of them was Havana syndrome. It was really interesting.
Really?
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
a pilot that they released. I think the show's coming out maybe next year, but the pilot
next season
came out.
we have to look at Havana syndrome.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
I'm freaked out by that because
yeah, totally.
The idea
you can be
that something
attacked
like
from a distance.
yeah, without in my bedroom, you know.
Yeah. Crazy.
And this is a timely one for Wisconsin. I don't know if you know this whole news story. Some people believe it was an intentional disappearance, that he disappeared to start a new life and escape troubles at home because he did appear to have some financial issues. Do you know about the kayaker thing that's going on right now in Wisconsin?
Oh, yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that they were searching like
He's
a couple
like
years ago.
Somewhere.
They found his kayak upside down and his phone and his wallet and all that stuff. And then they went on his computer and saw that he was looking at getting a fake passport and that he was chatting with some woman in Kazakhstan, and they
opened life insurance policies on himself.
He took out a life insurance policies on himself, and they're looking for him so that he can pay back what it cost them to search
they had
divers. They had divers in that lake looking for him, and he's got a family here that he faked his death. It's crazy. But people think maybe Kenny Veach did that he. But then, like, I'm fascinated by that because I've actually like look at articles about that, about how people say it's one thing to be like, I'm going to fake my own death and start somewhere else, but it's not as easy as
not in today's day and age.
No, it's not as easy to do that. But
so did you run across any of the videos that have surfaced lately that people think is Kenny?
I haven't, but tell me about it after we're done with this because I have two more. Misadventure. Some people think he fell into a mine shaft or that he succumbed to heat, died from hypothermia, or maybe a snake bit him. There was no sign of a body, though. So if a snake bit him, I don't know. People said he was often reckless on heights. He played with rattlesnakes for fun. He reportedly didn't carry a map or compass, and his food and water supplies were minimal. And because of his recklessness, he might have gotten lost or injured or succumbed to dehydration or hypothermia, or had an encounter with a wild animal, many of which are in that area. And suicide. Kenny's apparent negative state of mind may have given him the thought to end his life, and the M Cave story was a perfect excuse. Also, when you have YouTubers calling you a BSer and making fun of you, that's not going to help your mental situation.
Right.
But if this was his intent, where are the remains? Nothing has ever been found on all the searches, and people wonder if maybe he didn't jump into one of the mine shafts and his body will never be found. But again, theories say that the M Cave could be the entrance to a secret government facility. But as his girlfriend suggested, she thinks that he died by suicide. His body's never been found. No one has heard from him in 10 years. No one knows if he was abducted by aliens or perished somewhere out in the desert, and his body has not been found. So what are the new videos?
I don't know how recent they are, but I believe his sister owns some kind of shop. I don't know if it's like a hiking gear shop or something of that nature, but she owns a shop, and there's surveillance video of somebody breaking into her store and kind of stumbling around quickly he like stole some things. It was a man, and he does look similar to Kenny Veach. So people think that was him. Like, people think he faked his death and that he's living somewhere. They don't know where. And maybe he was breaking in there to get supplies or money or something like that. And then there's another video of a guy who's out in the desert in a truck, and he has a phone and he's filming some guy in the distance. And he's like, oh, I wonder if this guy needs help. He's out in the middle of absolute nowhere by himself. Doesn't look like he has much gear. And the guy comes closer. He's wearing sunglasses. And the guy's like, hey, are you good? Like, do you need water? Do you need food? Like, are you good? And this guy's like, trust me, I'm well equipped. I do this all the time. I have what I need. You really don't need to worry about me. And his voice is really similar to Kenny Beach's. He has
Wow,
a pretty
that's
distinct
weird.
voice. Yeah.
That's
So
weird. But
people think he's just like hiding out somewhere and
but then
that
I
he left his wallet outside that shaft on purpose as sort of like a
yeah,
decoy, like, hey, I fell
yeah.
down this shaft.
And that's like the kayaker story now
Hmm.
because a TikToker found, I don't know if you saw this, that in like a while ago, she was in California and there's a video of her and she would her thing was that people would ask her random questions and she would answer them. So this guy comes up and he's like, "Should I go to Kazakhstan?" And the guy looks like this missing kayaker. And
Interesting.
she's like, "Why? For a job?" And he's like, "No, I met a woman there." And the guy's like, "I have a family." And the guy looks like the missing kayaker, but they have ruled out. But it's like almost so perfect
Hmm.
that it would be him, and it looks like the guy, but they have ruled out that that is not the kayaker. And that's kind of what this sounds like, where this person sounds like so much like Veach, but he's not,
So yeah,
you
because
know?
someone, I don't know if it's his girlfriend or his sister, is like, no, the walk isn't right. That's not how he talks. Like, they were like, I know it's similar, but if you really knew him, you wouldn't think that was him. So there
That's
was
so
another
weird. No.
YouTube. I was just gonna say there was another YouTube channel of this guy who like funded to dig like excavate that mine shaft looking for Kenny Beach, and they actually did find human remains down there, but the DNA test or something showed that it wasn't Kenny Beach, so
That's
kind of
horrible.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
don't want to end up. So I think he killed himself. I mean, I think that's the
Hmm.
most logical explanation. I mean, do you think that he faked his death and that he's still
I don't
alive?
know. I think it's possible.
I don't think aliens had absolutely anything to
No,
do with this, to be
or the
honest with you.
military.
Or the military, but the military, I believe more than aliens, you know. But I just,
It could have been accidental too. I mean, he could have just fallen or gotten stuck somewhere and nobody found him.
yeah. But finding his phone near that mine shaft was
Oh
strange.
yeah, it was
Like,
his phone, not his wallet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything mysterious about it. I think he killed himself. But now that you say that, maybe he did fake it. But I
Hmm.
just don't think he did. Because I think I think it's one thing to fake it and move to Kazakhstan, but I think it's another thing to stay in the area,
Right. Where
you
people
know?
can see you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So no, it's a fascinating story. I need to watch more videos about it. You know,
Yeah.
people thought I've seen videos where people think that they found the M cave
Hmm.
and
Yep.
it does look
Similar.
like it's
Yeah.
like an M, but then there's nothing there. They go there and there's
Hmm.
nothing there and they're not freaked out or anything. So I don't know. I mean, I
There were
don't know what
some
to make of it.
videos showing what looked like could have been the MK, but someone had like sealed it shut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So people thought that we're speculating that someone found out that he found something he shouldn't have and then they went and sealed
Yeah,
it.
like the military sealed it shut.
Sure.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's anything mysterious about it. I think he either killed himself or died accidentally looking for this cave.
Yeah, I think until
Um,
either he's found or his remains are found, people are just gonna continue to speculate forever.
yeah. Yeah. So this last story I wasn't going to do, but we're going to do it because we got time. You and I believe this place is haunted, but I think you and I need to take a trip here next year.
I'll be
I
the
think
judge of
so.
that.
This comes from the Atlas Obscura website from October 17th, 2014, from an article called, quote, "The Deepest, Darkest, Oldest, Loneliest Hotel Room in the World," and from a July 22nd, 2016 USA Today article called, quote, "Want to Stay in Arizona's Deepest, Darkest Hotel Room." It is extremely rare that one gets to experience true utter darkness, a darkness that has no shadows, no movement, and no light. It's even more rare to experience complete silence. We are not talking about a normal silence with the wind blowing by and a few crickets chirping. This silence is so silent that you can hear your own breath, heartbeat, and inner monologue. I had the privilege, or perhaps misfortune, of experiencing both of my senses being deprived while staying overnight at the Grand Canyon Caverns Underground Suite, known as the deepest, darkest, oldest, loneliest hotel room on planet Earth. You're already shaking your head. We're
No,
not going to stay there,
I
are
hate
we?
it. No, I hate everything about
My
it.
Lying 230 feet below ground level at Arizona milepost 115 on Route 66 are the Grand Canyon Caverns. They are the largest dry caverns in America and one of the biggest known deposits of selenite crystals, making it truly a natural wonder. Unlike wet caverns, there are absolutely no living things here. The air is so dry and arid that without water, no animal or man would be able to live past 72 hours. It is estimated that the caves were first formed over 335 million years ago when most of the southwestern United States was underwater. About 35 million years ago, rain poured into the subterranean spaces, and when it evaporated, these caverns took shape. Despite their lifespan being millions of years, this underground site was not discovered until about 90 years ago. It was 1927 when an enterprising Walter Peck, on his way to the weekly poker game, nearly fell into a hole in the ground. Not wanting to miss poker, he vowed to come back the next day to investigate. He did, and brought a few friends, a bucket, and a rope. He had his friends lower him down and then began exploring. Hours later, when he came back to the surface, he was grinning ear to ear. Peck thought that he had found the only cavern in the world to be rich in gold, diamonds, and silver, so he bought the whole property and began plans for a mining operation. He was, of course, wrong. What he thought were precious metals were just iron oxide and rust glimmering on the limestone rock. Not to be deterred, Peck found another way to make money from his discovery. He charged visitors a quarter to be lowered via bucket into the caverns. As one of the first Route 66 tourist stops, the caverns were a hit and remain to this day a vital stop on the Mother Road. You don't want to get lowered down in a bucket.
Is that how you get to the hotel room? Is a bucket?
No.
Okay.
No. But what they have now doesn't sound a whole lot better, but we'll get to that. Peck wasn't the only one to realize how special these caverns were. So did the U.S. government. At the height of the Cold War in 1962, the government recognized the caverns as a perfect place for a fallout shelter. They sent over enough water, food, pretty much just crackers and hard candy, and, quote, sanitation equipment for 2,000 people to survive in the caverns for 14 days. These 62-year-old rations are still in the caverns today, preserved by the dry climate, and are ready to eat. In fact, I was able to try one of the infamous survival crackers and a green hard candy. The cracker was stale. You think?
I would love to see that, actually.
Yeah.
Legend like has a time capsule.
Yes. Legend has it that this was also the planned spot for JFK to hide out during a nuclear apocalypse. After all, what's safer than a giant series of caverns deep underground? The cavern suite hotel room is assembled atop a wooden platform in the middle of the cave's largest room, where tour groups pass by every 30 minutes during the day. The windowless room, where the air is deathly still, may be Arizona's most unusual place to spend the night. It comes with 2 queen beds, a coffee maker, a microwave, a 32-inch HD TV with plenty of DVDs, including, of course, the movie The Descent, which I would not watch down there.
No,
a selection of full-size candy bars and a few bags of microwave popcorn next to a mini fridge, an old-school record player, and a 70-foot-high vaulted cavern ceiling, as well as access to the looping mile-long trail through Grand Canyon Caverns. Once the last tour is gone, usually around 6:30 p.m., guests have the cave to themselves to do whatever they like as long as they stick to the concrete path. Off-roading is strictly prohibited given the drop-offs scattered nearby. The $800 a night rate also includes a suite attendant stationed topside throughout the night should guests need anything. Sleeping on a rollout bed not far from the elevator, the attendant can arrange and deliver meals, and when guests check out, doubles as the maid.
How
the
much
room
does
is booked
that job pay?
I don't know. I should look into that. Maybe I could do that. The room is booked about a third of the year, mostly for special occasions, lead tour guide Levi Goldsmith says. And
like
each stay
divorces?
Maybe.
Ugh.
And each stay begins with, of course, a tour. Almost a century ago, tourists would pay 25 cents to be lowered down a narrow shaft on a rope, a process that guides affectionately called, quote, dope on a rope. The fee included a kerosene lamp and as much time in the cavern as they'd like, keeping in mind the patience of the rope minder. Dopes on ropes were lowered for 9 years until 1936 when operators installed ladders and a swinging bridge to deliver visitors safely. I don't like swinging bridges either.
I'm not into the ladder either.
No, the elevator, a 3-year project. 2, to blast through tons of rock, another year to install it, opened in 1962, opening the cavern to visitors after a minute-long descent in a rattling metal cage. People who have stayed in the room have reported the distant sound of Native American chanting and drumming and shadowy figures moving along the rock wall. Other claims include whispering sounds, the elevator door opening and closing without a cause, and the image of seeing a person dangling from the top of the cavern. So there you go. There, you and I are gonna $800 spend a night in that hotel room.
Is that elevator still from 1962? Like,
I don't know.
That's scary.
It still shakes and stuff when you take it down. Could you imagine like going down and the elevator malfunctioning and then you not being able to get back up to the surface?
I cannot imagine that.
No. So we're not going to stay there?
No, we're not. Hey, just do another cave tour. Go to the Cave of the Mounds. You get all the way in there and they shut the lights off and everybody's quiet. Yeah. You can experience it right there for like 10 seconds.
The thought freaks me out of such a quietness that you hear like people say when they go in those quiet rooms that you start to lose it after a little while because you hear, they say you hear your own blood flowing, like rushing through your veins. You hear every movement in your body. Like,
that would freak me out, actually.
Part of me thinks I would do this. Like, I think I might do this.
Take a
because camera. It's not like squishing through tiny openings and crawling on your hands and knees through a cave. But I say that now, and if it came down to it, I'd probably see the elevator and get down and be like, nope, haul me back up. I'm not doing this.
Especially for $800.
Yeah, I know.
There are much better places I could stay for $800.
Yeah, we could stay at the Stanley a weekend for that much. So we're gonna take a pass on the Cavern hotel room. All right. But no, that's all I got. That's what I got for caves.
It didn't freak me out too much.
No, but I didn't. I saw the story about the person that died, like with the, what do you call it, the nutter butter?
The nutty putty.
The nutty putty incident. Yeah, like I saw some of that, but I didn't want to really dive into that too much. It was bad enough with the poor guy that got like buried in that cavern. So I figured
and then displayed for years to come.
Yeah, I'm still convinced that there's something weird at Maribel Caves. Like that whole park gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I don't know why. Like it's other people have said the same thing, and that's where the Hotel Hell is. That's all like torn down basically now, and we talked about that I think in one of our Wisconsin episodes. But even just like going through that woods just gives me like a weird vibe. Like maybe next season you and I should go there with our recorders and just do like a live segment from there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because I'm convinced there's something going on there. And I told you the story about when Natalie and I and Melanie and Dale went there, where you have to go on your hands and knees into a cavern or into a tunnel. And Mel freaked out, and then I started freaking out, so I backed out. But I think Natalie and Dale did go into where it opens into a big cavern, like the one that you're in right now. But I can't. And like we did that geocache where we had to go in the sewers underneath Appleton, and I got a little ways into the tunnel, and I'm like, nope, I can't do this.
I couldn't either.
So no, but that's all I got. That's all I really got for caves. I didn't find as much as I thought I would. There are quite a few haunted caves, but a lot of the ones I found weren't in the United States, and I would rather save those for when we start doing strange countries episodes and stuff like that.
That's a good idea.
One that I actually looked into a lot was the Bell Witch Cave, but then it turns out nothing really happened in the cave. So I didn't, I wiped that out. So that's what I have for caves. Hopefully that was okay. Caves are fascinating to me from a distance because I do not want to go anywhere near one.
Same.
So we're not doing a listener question for this one because we want to save any we have. I did say that a listener sent us a voicemail with a question, and we're going to save that for Christmas too.
Okay.
So our Christmas will just be us answering questions and talking with Corey. And then the next episode, of course, will be the season finale where we will do topics. But yeah, so my song choice for this week, I couldn't think of one So I finally did this one that'll annoy people because people get really mad when a band that they think is, what's the word I'm looking for? Is holy and people should not remake their songs.
Oh, sure.
People get really upset about that. They think that there's bands that are untouchable that you cannot
Mm-hmm.
remake one of their songs. And this is one of those bands. Even though I don't get it with this band, Natalie loved them. And a lot of people do, but I'm like, eh. But somebody does a version of one of their songs that I absolutely love their version. So here's some of the YouTube comments under this. Somebody writes, quote, love, love, love this version. She does it so beautifully. Somebody else writes, quote, this song is great, but if you've never heard it, this entire album is amazing. Literally the best album of cover songs I've ever heard. And I will second that because I bought this CD off Amazon, or the album off Amazon, because I love this album is just amazing. Like,
So it's a whole album of covers?
yes, it's just
Okay.
her live acoustic
Hmm.
doing covers of songs. Somebody else on YouTube writes, quote, and I love this. Somebody writes, quote, I played this song 20 years ago on a jukebox in Boulder, Colorado for my girlfriend. It's been our song ever since. It made me cry then, and it still makes me cry every time. So beautiful, both the song and my beloved. Somebody else writes, quote, this is such a gorgeous rendition. I feel like she frees the lyrics up to showcase them to be as beautiful as they actually are. It's such an incredibly sharp song. The strings, the production, and especially her tight as a knot guitar playing really knocks this out of the ballpark. I get a lump in my throat every time I hear this version. If I ever got married, this would be the song I'd play. And somebody else writes, quote, I don't think there's any need to compare this with the original. It's like comparing a book with a film. They're both completely different versions, and she just does it in the way that she does songs best, and it's beautiful. Great songs can be stripped back and played in just about any style and still offer something new and true. This version is awesome, and the Talking Heads are awesome. So it is the song This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody, originally by the Talking Heads, but this is done by Sean Colvin.
I like her.
She only, yeah, like
She has
her
a
only
great
hit was Sunny
voice.
Came Home.
Hmm.
And one day I was at the library and I saw this CD, and to this day, this is one of the most amazing CDs I think I've ever heard. She does The Police's Every Little Thing. She changes
She
it though
does
to
this
every little,
magic. Yeah.
yeah, but she changes it to every little thing he does is magic. And she does some songs on here that I've never heard before. And then I go and listen to the original. Like she does a song called Saturday Night, I think. And it's just, like I said, it's acoustic. It's just her. And her version of This Must Be the Place by the Talking Heads is just beautiful. Like I fell in love with this song the first time I heard it. And then I went and listened to the Talking Heads version and I was like, ugh, no. Like I do not like this. Like it should be slow acoustic guitar, her voice, like it is so good. So that's my song choice. This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody by Sean Colvin. Do you have
Nice.
anything you want to share?
Nope.
I'm all caught up with Yellow Jackets. I finished Yellow Jackets. I watched a show on, I think I told you this, on Netflix called School Spirits that I
Hmm.
actually really, really liked.
Okay, I'll have to
And
check
now
it out.
yeah, and now I started one called Beef that I didn't think I was
Mm,
going to like, that
I've
I
seen it
actually
on
really,
there.
yeah, with Glenn from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Poor
and I
Glenn.
really like, yeah, I know. Who was I just talking to? I was just talking to somebody about that they stopped watching it when Glenn died. And so many
Hmm.
people did that. Everybody said that's when the show jumped the shark. But I'm trying to think. I went to the library today to get John Wick 4 because I've never seen John.
Hmm.
Like I like the John Wick movies.
Hmm.
They're just dumb entertainment,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I really like them. So I haven't really watched. Like I
Keanu's
said,
still
oh my
kicking it.
God, Gilmore Girls. I am
Oh,
loving
yeah, yeah.
Gilmore
So where
Girls.
are
Like
you? We
I
don't need
told
to
you,
go
I'm like
too deep into it, but
no, but I just saw the one today where Jesse comes back to town and he's sleeping in his car, and
oh,
then like Luke lets him in, like come in
because it's
and
cold.
because it's
Yeah.
cold.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was a little like shocked and surprised with the whole My Girl Paris making out with that old professor.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I
Mm-hmm.
did not in a million years. I love Paris. I just adore her. But I texted you that I'm actually getting depressed at the thought of not having that show to watch anymore. And Michelle,
Then
one
you
of
can
my
just
good
start
friends
it
who's
back
a,
over.
yeah,
That's what I
Michelle, one of
do.
my good friends that listens to the show, messaged me that she's like, so she said she wishes she could get amnesia just so she could go back and
Mm.
rewatch it again because she loved the show.
I like
I didn't
rewatching it
realize that I'm in
though.
like complete darkness.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's you can tell it's gotten dark outside. I
Yeah,
like rewatching it because there's a lot of little things that you miss the first time
yeah,
around, and when you go back and
yeah,
rewatch it, yeah.
yeah. Just such a
Apparently,
good
there's a
show.
pillow that is in almost every episode that's in Lorelai's house. I can't
Really?
remember the details about it, but I always forget about it.
Now I'm gonna have to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's what I've been watching lately. School Spirits was really cute. It was like a
Okay.
really, I did not expect to like it, but I really did.
Hmm.
Um, so
It's
I
on
think
my
that's,
list.
do we have anything else to discuss?
I don't think so.
I can't think of anything either. Thanksgiving's coming up. I love the Thanksgiving season. Still have no job right now, but there might be something in the works.
Good.
So I might have something. My tire getting fixed did not cost as much as I expected it would.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
awesome.
a blessing. Corey, I made a doctor's appointment. Corey took me to make a doctor's appointment so I can finally figure out why I am feeling like this all the time. So there's that, which I'm going to stress about until the doctor's
Mm-hmm.
appointment comes up. But Aaron has sent home a bunch of food leftovers for me. Corey bought me some stuff. So
I've been
I'm
sending you
making a,
podcast
you've
money.
been sending me podcast money. So I am making a go of it. Um, I'm surviving. So there's that. But that is all I have. So nothing else for you. I know
Mm-mm.
you got to
I
get
gotta go
going.
pick up Jim. Yeah.
Pick up Jim. So I think that is it for this episode. I don't like Skype episodes, but it's
Mm-hmm.
better than nothing. So they'll work in a pinch. Um, Next episode I'll be there because Corey will drive down for that one, so we can have our season finale. And I'm ready for a break.
I gotta figure out the camera situation for that episode. We might all three be just sitting next to each other
Sitting right next to each other's laps,
like
basically.
sardines.
That's okay. We
We're
still
all
have the
friends.
taste stuff from David that David sent to us,
Mm-hmm.
so we still have that. Don't forget the Christmas
And
one. We got to
Tom.
try the fish,
Mm-hmm.
the putrefied fish that I'm so looking forward to. But yes, the season finale will be in 2 weeks, and then there will be a Christmas episode. So please send questions you would like us to answer in the Christmas episode to TheStrangeSessionsQuestions@gmail.com. I will post it in the group. So from Krista and
Are you gonna
I,
do the rest of the deets?
oh my God, I suppose I could. You can send us an email at TheStrangeSessions@gmail.com. We are on Instagram, where Krista does a great job at The Strange Sessions. Love our Instagram listeners. I love that they always comment on stuff. You can send postcards and snail mail. No food items right now, though, because we're going to be taking our 2-month hiatus. You can send postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. You can call our lonely phone line at 920-443-9602. You can send listener stories to TheStrangeSessionsStories@gmail.com. Katie sent a bunch of stuff there that I didn't find for like a month because I haven't been checking it.
Oops.
And you can send questions for our Christmas episode, or you could just send questions really anytime to TheStrangeSessionsQuestions@gmail.com. And
High five.
I think that's it. I can't do it because I'm not I'm next to you on your screen,
Just
but
go
I'm up
all
in
the way to other way.
this way.
To your right. You're right. You're right. There.
High five. That was so much more work than it should have been.
Yeah.
So from Krista and I in our respective houses, until next time, stay strange. Bye, guys.